The serial child killer Robert Black was set to be charged with another murder when he died in prison. 13-year-old Jeanette Tate disappeared in Devon in 1978. Her body has never been found. Black was serving life for the murder of 4 young girls.
Also tonight, Cameron blasts the energy companies, saying bills are still too high.
Co comes out fighting as athletics prepares for another explosive doping report.
And £33 million richer, but it won't change us, say Britain's biggest ever lottery winners.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austin.
Good evening. The father of the murdered schoolgirl, Jeanette Tate, has told ITV News the family have been denied justice after the prime suspect died in prison. Police revealed today that they were set to charge the serial child killer Robert Black over Jeanette's abduction.
The 13-year-old disappeared on a paper round near her Devon home in 1978. Her body has never been found. And Jeanette's father, John, says he fears he may never know what happened to her. Rupert Evelyn reports.
There is only one man who police believe can explain what happened to Jeanette Tate, and he is now dead. The 13-year-old vanished 37 years ago while on her newspaper round. Her bike and the papers she hoped to deliver abandoned in a country lane. Had he lived, serial child killer Robert Black was about to be charged with her murder. Her father revealed his thoughts to ITV News today about the death of his daughter's suspected killer.
I think it's anger, not relief, definitely not. I'm only relieved about one thing, that he was inside and not likely to come out because he could do it to others, you know.
The search for Jeanette, or Ginny Tate as she was known, was high profile but ultimately in vain. 3,500 police statements, 12,000 pieces of evidence could not help find a body. Petrol receipts put Black in the area at the time, and added to the striking similarity with his other crimes made him the only real suspect. Robert Black was convicted of murdering 4 schoolgirls in the 1980s, Susan Maxwell, Caroline Hogg, Sarah Harper and Jennifer Cardy. But he was also suspected of being involved in a number of other killings, including the disappearance and murder of Jeanette Tate, for which police have little doubt he was responsible for.
How would I define him? Probably the easiest way to define him is every parent's worst nightmare. In terms of his offending, and he was a huge danger to children.
Despite the evidence, Jeanette's father still cannot completely let go of hope.
It's hard not to think of her. I think of her nearly every single day in some way or another. There's still a tiny little bit of me that hopes she's alive somewhere. There's no reason to think that, but that's hope for you.
The serial killer may be dead, but he leaves behind shattered lives and unanswered questions. Well, in the hope that it will help Jeanette Tate's family, the police will still present their file to the CPS that shows what they believed happened here back in the 1970s. Jeanette's mother today described Robert Black as an evil man. She said she believed that even if he had been brought to justice, she would never have learnt where her daughter was left. She also said that she feels sorry for us, as in herself, but not for him.
Rupert Evelyn in Aylesbury, thank you.
The Prime Minister has been turning up the heat on energy companies, saying bills are not falling fast enough. The wholesale cost of fuel has plummeted in recent months, but what customers are forced to pay has not. It comes just as a severe cold snap is about to hit large parts of the United Kingdom. Our consumer editor Chris Choi has more.
The snow has already started in Cumbria tonight and more heading our way. But as the heating gets turned up, there are new calls for bills to go down. Customers like this say Britain's politicians should be pushing the power firms much harder.
The energy company are making so much profit because their costs are coming down, but not reflecting to the customer. And I feel that they could give back to the customer a lot more than what they are doing at the moment.
Oil prices shape what energy companies themselves pay for the gas and electricity they sell to us. And 3 years ago, oil cost around $100 a barrel. The average annual energy bill in 2013 was £1,140. Last year, oil prices plummeted to $40 a barrel, but the average energy bill hardly fell at all. Today, the Prime Minister said he doesn't think bills have been cut enough.
I agree that they're not falling as fast as I would like, and that's why I think it's right that we have this Competition Commission inquiry into the energy industry to make sure it's a fully competitive industry.
But warm words won't help with customers' bills, and a letter to power firms from the Energy Secretary has already failed to change prices.
We need to see these prices come down, and the energy companies are responding. I'm confident we'll see further reductions this year.
The bills haven't gone down. Aren't these companies basically thumbing their noses at you that they're not taking action?
What they are doing is waking up to the competition that the government has introduced.
Tonight, as we brace for bad weather, energy firms say they are helping with new lower tariffs for those who switch, and that wholesale prices only make up half the cost of our bills. But as we struggle to keep warm, many believe the industry is running out of excuses and its customers running out of patience.
The frustration here is that as temperatures fall, so too are oil prices that dictate wholesale energy costs. But don't be misled by those bold words from politicians. There is not a lot they can actually do. They've never given the industry's watchdog powers to regulate prices. And while officials are looking at ways to change the way the power firms work, final conclusions aren't expected until the summer, long after what's predicted to be a cold winter.
Chris, thanks very much.
2 French students and a Ukrainian skier have died after an avalanche in the French Alps. 3 others, including a teacher with a school group from Lyon, were seriously injured in the avalanche in Les Deux Alpes resort. A large slab of snow broke off above a black run that had been closed after heavy snowfall.
Sebastian Coe, the beleaguered boss of World Athletics, says he's not afraid of banning any nation guilty of helping their athletes to cheat. Lord Coe insists he and other senior executives at the IAAF did not know the full extent of cheating by Russian athletes.
Lord Coe was speaking ahead of the publication of a new report tomorrow from the World Anti-Doping Agency, which is set to widen the scandal. As our sports editor Steve Scott reports.
Already reeling from Russia's state-sponsored doping and a circle of corruption covering up positive tests for cash, athletics is braced for worse tomorrow. Russia is already banned from all international competition, and the man charged with leading the sport into a new, clean era says, Olympic year or not, he won't shy away from doing the same to other major nations if they are implicated.
Yes, there may be other countries that are mentioned, and if there are, we will meet that challenge. If there are nations out there that really do not have the will to make these changes, and it's not about resources, then we will sanction.
Coe inherits an organisation in decay. His predecessor, Lamine Diack, is now under criminal investigation, and 3 top officials are serving life bans. Only yesterday it was revealed senior figures within the IAAF considered hiding the extent of Russia's doping. Coe says ultimately there was no cover-up.
All the athletes that had abnormal readings, those readings were followed up on, and the sanctions, the penalties, made public.
Do you wish you'd asked more questions, pushed matters further harder?
I wish that when you had 3 independent inquiries taking place, and it's a question I asked myself, and I was very open about that, should we have intervened earlier? It's possibly, but it's difficult to see how.
Even though there were suspicions of widespread Russian doping, in 2013 Coe went to Moscow ahead of the World Championships. An email seen by ITV News says the visit was to support Valentin Balaknichev, seen here on the left. In hindsight, did that show good judgment, given the former head of Russia Athletics is now serving a lifetime ban?
We weren't there to support corrupt anti-doping practices. We weren't there to support secondary laboratories and all the things that have come out in the report, because I was unaware of that. What I was there to do was to make sure that the 2 big global moments for our sport over a 4-year cycle, the Olympic Games and the World Championships, are properly supported.
Coe promised today to be ruthless about leading change and is convinced he is the right person to do it. Tomorrow he'll find out just how much bigger his task has got. Steve Scott, ITV News.
Iran has released 10 American sailors who the US Navy claims had strayed into Iranian waters. The sailors were detained aboard 2 boats in the Gulf yesterday. Their swift release was welcomed by the United States and comes days before the implementation of a nuclear deal between Iran and world powers.
Here, scientists could be allowed to genetically modify human embryos for the first time in the UK. The fertility regulator will consider an application from a research institute tomorrow. Well, our health editor Rachel Younger is here. Now, Rachel, how controversial is this?
It's highly controversial and it could happen under UK law. We could find out as early as next week. Why is it significant? Well, it's not what Dr. Kathy Nycam wants to do now. It's the ethical implications of what gene editing on embryos could lead to in the future. Now, she spent years working on very early stage embryos to try and find out why miscarriages and infertility happen. And what she's looking at is the very first 7 days. That's when we make the transition from fertilised eggs to a structure of over 200 cells, and she thinks that stage is crucial in working out which embryos will successfully implant and which won't. What she's going to be asking for tomorrow is permission to use a recently discovered gene editing tool, which effectively works like a pair of scissors and alters or even takes out genes. Why is that controversial? Well, because if you alter the gene in one person, it alters the gene line forever, down the generations. Of course, that only happens if these embryos are implanted. That won't be what she's doing. They will be discarded. But given all of this, you can see why there is so much agonising over it.
Fascinating stuff, Rachel. Thank you.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, Argos stores could face the axe if Sainsbury's goes ahead with its takeover plan.
And living the dream, a couple from the Scottish borders scooped the UK's biggest ever lottery win. Those stories and more after the break. John Nisson.
Welcome back. An aid worker who's facing jail tomorrow for trying to smuggle a young Afghan girl into the UK says it was a moment of madness. Rob Laurie, a former British soldier and father of 4, had been working with refugees staying in the Calais camp known as the Jungle. He told ITV News he couldn't leave the 4-year-old behind. From Calais, Peter Smith reports.
When Rob Laurie came to Calais, he says it was to build shelters, but he got what foreign aid workers call too attached. Rob admits it was the big eyes of little Brew that got him. This is a video of him playing with the 4-year-old girl from Afghanistan. He decided he couldn't leave her here and tried to take her back to Yorkshire with him. But they got caught. Preparing for court where he faces charges for breaking French law, Rob was today back in Calais.
I'm just a bloke, I'm just a man.
You're a people smuggler. You tried to smuggle a little girl.
No, I'm getting done for aiding illegal immigration.
But you did try to smuggle a little girl into Britain.
You use the word smuggler. Me and many others use the word rescue.
Rob, there are aid workers across the world who see cute children in refugee camps around the world. There's a responsibility that comes with being an aid worker that you know you can't bring them back home with you.
I am guilty of getting too involved and too compassionate and letting irrational thought take over.
From speaking with Rob today, it's clear he's still going through a moral dilemma. He decided to, as he saw it, rescue a little girl from these conditions, to take her to where she wanted to go from being stuck a long way from home. But he knows he broke the law. Tomorrow he'll plead guilty in court, and he too could be stuck in France, although unlike Brew and her father, he could be behind the walls of a prison cell for up to 5 years.
My decision has destroyed my family, destroyed us financially, destroyed us physically, mentally. It was a stupid thing to do.
Insisting he made that stupid decision for the right reasons, tomorrow Rob hopes the French court will see it the same way. Peter Smith, ITV News in Calais.
Talks are set to resume tomorrow in a bid to resolve the bitter dispute over junior doctors' contracts. A 24-hour walkout by tens of thousands of medics ended this morning. A 48-hour strike is set to take place in a fortnight's time, and an all-out strike with no emergency cover is planned for February.
Sainsbury's has plans to close up to 200 Argos stores if it takes over the company. It emerged today. The supermarket is trying to buy Home Retail Group, which also owns Homebase. Our business editor Joel Hills is here. Joel, this sounds worrying news for Argos workers. What is behind Sainsbury's plans?
Well, look, Sainsbury's had a good Christmas. It told us all about it today. Argos and Homebase both have well-documented problems. On the face of it, Sainsbury's needs Home Retail Group like a hole in the head. But the chief executive, Mike Coop, this morning spelt out the logic behind the deal, explaining that he felt Sainsbury's and Argos specifically were stronger together than they are separately apart. Now, as it stands, Argos has on every high street in Britain, more or less, 734 standalone Argos stores. If the deal goes ahead, up to 200 of those would be expected to close. The shops, effectively, Mark, would relocate inside the Sainsbury's supermarket. The logic is driven by our changing shopping habits. The average British adult spends just over £1,500 a year online and counting. 2/3 of adults currently have a smartphone. Around half the adult population has a tablet computer. Both those figures, of course, growing. So the future the direction of travel looks inevitable. Sainsbury's made the first offer in November, £1 billion. It was turned down. It looks like they'll be back. A deal made easier tonight because Home Retail Group has confirmed it's in talks to sell Homebase and its 18,000 staff to Wesfarmers Australian company, £340 million.
All right, Joel, thanks very much indeed.
The winners of the UK Lottery's biggest ever jackpot said today it would change their lives, but not them as people. David and Carol Martin from Hawick in Scotland won £33 million in Saturday's draw. The married couple said a family get-together is top of their to-do list, as our Scotland correspondent Debbie Edward reports.
They would rather celebrate with a cup of tea, but it was champagne today instead, as Carol and David Martin toasted their £33 million win on the lottery. And within hours of becoming millionaires, they had hit the shops.
When they phoned to say, look, we'll be here on Monday, we'll bring some champagne with us, and we sort of looked at each other, we haven't got any champagne glasses. And so this is on Sunday, and they said that your heads were just spinning, so we went down to Sainsbury's it was, and bought 4 glasses for £5.
The couple have lived in Hawick in the Scottish borders all of their lives. David plays the lottery every week, but usually only puts on one line.
They bought the tickets here at their local Morrison's during their regular Saturday shop with Carol's mother. It was an extra lucky dip that proved very lucky indeed.
At the chemist where Carol has worked for over 20 years, she had talked about winning the jackpot.
Carol was at Australia last year visiting her daughter, and she said, oh, you need to win the lottery to get back again. And there we go, she's won the lottery, so she'll be able to go whenever she wants.
First class?
First class, of course.
A first-class family reunion is number 1 on the list. But a new car, a trip to Wimbledon and other luxury items were also mentioned.
Carol loves diamonds, so there'll be diamonds. There will be diamonds on the go, and I'll probably get a nice watch. It sounds...
Finally, Carol.
You got one when you got engaged. Yes,
The other half of Saturday's £66 million jackpot is still to be claimed. Someone for whom the champagne is still on ice. Debbie Edward, ITV News, Hawick.
So, are you sure it's not you? We can double-check the numbers for that unclaimed ticket on our website, itvnews.com/news. That ticket's also worth a cool £33 million.
Certainly not us. And finally, there were calls today for England to sing a new national anthem at international sporting events. The Scots have the rousing flower of Scotland, and the Welsh, of course, the stirring land of my fathers.
MPs argue today that God Save the Queen isn't quite English enough. Damon Green reports from Chester on whether it's time for a change of tune.
God save our gracious Queen.
It's been the national anthem for 2 centuries, and for every British child, learning the words is part of growing up. The question is, do the English need a song of their own?
God save the Queen.
D Point Primary in Chester is right on the border between England and Wales. The pupils of Year 5 are perfectly happy with God Save the Queen.
It's quite really good because mostly footballers end up singing it at the start, or when Great Britain wins a gold medal, they sing it.
The United Kingdom has God Save the Queen as its national anthem, but individually, at things like sporting events, Wales sings Land of My Fathers. The Scots have Flower of Scotland. Northern Ireland's anthem varies, but when combined with the Republic in rugby, their song is Ireland's Call. Leaving England, who stick with God Save the Queen, with gusto.
Okay, so you have to come straight in.
But MPs have decided to debate whether another song would be better as an English anthem at sporting events. Jerusalem is bound to be one of those suggested. Even the Welsh voices in the border city of Chester think it's a sound idea.
You've got Scottish, got theirs, Ireland, they've all got their own, and English never seem to have their own identity with the anthem, so it's always a puzzle to ask people.
And in the streets in ancient times.
Unless the bill gets government support, it's unlikely to become law. But of course, in a green and pleasant land, you can sing whatever you like. Damon Green, ITV News, in England.
And that's all for now. Julie is here with news at 10.
Someone should probably ask the Queen, actually.
Well, they should. She would have a view.
That's it from the evening news team. Have a very good evening.
Bye-bye.